What's up, Warriors? So, hopping on to make a quick video about Hurricane Milton. Now, last night when I was lying in bed, messing around on my phone, and I came across an article that said that Hilton, is it a category 6? Is that even possible? Now, obviously, people will say it's not possible, but once you go past a certain threshold of wind speeds and all that, they would have to make that categorization. But they claim as if that was never something that was ever done before, that categorization could never have existed, which I believe probably in the past, before recorded weather and everything else, that there was likely a hurricane that had gone faster than that in wind speeds, in terms of wind speeds, but they weren't recording it at that time conveniently, so they don't really have the evidence to the contrary that hurricanes could get that fast. If a tornado can top out and an F5 can top out at 300 mile per hour, then what would stop a hurricane from having winds up to that speed or greater than that speed? The simple answer is it wouldn't. People say it's so big it couldn't. Well, if it produces tornadoes inside of that hurricane that go up to 300 miles per hour, then why would it stop any of the wind around it from going that fast or reaching those speeds? It wouldn't, is the simple answer. But conveniently, this is coming to Florida right now, just to hit it right before the election, so that people can claim that conservatives are being attacked, and so that people who are on the other side, which would be Democrats would be like, who cares? It's just stupid Republicans. This is literally people hating each other over, over people. People are causing them. All these politics are causing people to have such disdain for each other that they're gladly willing to watch somebody lose their house, lose their livelihood, lose their family members. People who could be innocent and not be a part of this political system that votes on either side, such as myself. They've set this up to be this way, right? They've set it up where now it's me versus them. It's the tribalism. It's the tribalism mindset that they are trying to conjure up in people, and especially in all these American cities and these suburbs. You see the Trump signs, you see the Harris signs, you see them on every other house. It's just so ridiculous, the amount of people that act like they have skin in the game, like somehow this person getting in is going to solve all their problems, which, newsflash, none of our problems have been solved over the last, I don't even know, since I've been born. Really, there's always been problems. Since I've been around on this earth, 31 years, there's always been an issue. There's always been something that could be done better. There's always some kind of crisis that this country is navigating through. And I haven't seen a president fix any of it, to be honest. And it's all gone awry, especially after that date with the 9 and then the, 1 and then the other. So after that date, everything kind of just went by the wayside, and things really started to turn tyrannical, if you will. And now we're getting hit with weather coming at rapid speeds and paces. I live in northern Appalachia, since they love to say Appalachia is such a huge hotspot zone now. Everybody is paying attention to the fact that we're even existing, but it's only for convenience, which another point is people in North Carolina, the deep South, Appalachian Mountains, the people that are in there are generally conservative people, and the same sentiment goes for them. The Democrats feel the same way about them as they do about the people in Florida, more than likely, which is messed up, because these are good people. All people who are in this mix-up, sure, you might have some crappy people, but you have great people. It doesn't matter what your ideologies are politically, because it's literally just a show. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So In northern Appalachia, where I live, which is in Pennsylvania, we have been getting crazy thunderstorms, especially this spring, with the amount of tornadoes. Now, this wasn't quite covered as much. Of course, it's not covered. It's not covered when it's more of a rural area or when it's more of an area that people don't take high interest in. But we had I think it was 20, 25, or 30 tornado touchdowns within the months of April, May, and June. And I, in my entire life of living in Pennsylvania, up until this past year, had maybe only heard of maybe 5 tornadoes that are being formed and touching down in this region, which is southwestern, Pittsburgh mountainous area, terrain area, rugged terrain. It's not like it's flat really at all. So tornadoes should not be forming. And that's what I always learned in school, right? Tornadoes don't form over hills, over mountains, because they get broken up by the terrain. But that's what they're leading us to believe now. Oh, climate change is so out of control that these tornadoes can form everywhere. Well, now they're saying that Category 6 hurricanes are now possible, right? A Category 6 hurricane is going to hit Florida. Now, don't mean to smirk or to laugh, because none of that is funny. But what I think is hilarious is how dumb they think that people really are, that they could do something like this, that they could geo-engineer a storm so powerful that it breaks the scales of what they had previously measured for hurricane strength. Milton is definitely not a organic storm. It's not. Helene was not an organic storm either. Of course, you can make arguments like it was, but why are these forming just in the Gulf of Mexico, forming these crazy hurricanes at this point in time? It's like a hurricane every now and again, understandable. A hurricane once a week, not even just once a week, but a powerful hurricane, one that's over a Category 4 hurricane, that is not normal. The way they try and convince you is yes, this is all man-made. We've been warning you. The climate is changing. Nobody wants to believe it. There's all science deniers. The same people that don't believe in getting these things in the arm, those are the people that are the science deniers and that don't believe in this change that's happening to the weather on Earth and all this other stuff. So once again, we're being made out to be the enemy here, the public enemy, because we just understand basic common sense where they want something, they being the powers over the population of the United States. They want something and they have the technology to make it happen, as in destroy communities, people, settlements, whatever you want to call it. They are able to completely wipe out areas. These are weapons that are being used, silent weapons, even though they're not so silent because they're actually terrifying. But most people would never just point the finger at the government and say they are the ones doing this. Now, they obviously have it where people have been brainwashed in all these instances where they're like, okay, there's no way it's the government doing this. This is a naturally occurring thing by us humans because we're terrible. We're made of carbon and we're contributing to a terrible climate. We're contributing to this terrible way of change, this terrible wave of change in our realities. And the fact of the matter is, this stuff has been around for hundreds of years. All this, we have existed. So if us being carbon for thousands of years has caused such an issue, why is it just manifesting now? The argument, the only counter argument that is acceptable to this not being weather weapons from, by this not being manipulated weather events from our government, is that God's judgment is being placed on the people of the United States. In which case, though, it wouldn't just be happening in the United States because God would judge the whole world, and he will judge the whole world. So God will judge the whole world. It's not just the United States that's going to be judged. Yes, judgment will be passed on the United States, sure, but that's the same judgment that every nation is going to receive. So I don't know why, the thing about it is that makes that difficult is that that's the only counter to it not being manipulated, weather events by our government, is that it's God's punishment, which I don't know, I don't claim to know, and I would never claim to know what is and what isn't God's judgment. So I'm not going to say, oh, this is definitely not God's judgment, or this is definitely God's judgment, because I don't know that. So, not speaking out of line to the Father, I'm going to say that this is the only other logical reasoning behind what Hurricane Milton is, and that is government manipulated weather. By the way, this could turn into, a puny little storm by the time it hits the coast of Florida. They may have just evacuated people for no reason. I mean, you keep people in constant fear and moving them around, that's also going to cause a catatonic state, a state where you are just numb, or maybe next time they send out the same warning and they're like, oh, well, they already tried to scare us with this once and we spent hundreds of dollars fleeing the state, and now we're in a bunch of debt because of it, and nothing even happened. It hit the coast and it was a category 2 or a category 1, something that we could have handled and just stayed there and figured it out. Well, they're going to come on back, and then when they come back home, who knows if another storm will pop up this year or in the spring or next hurricane season. They're going to hit them with a storm, have the same propaganda, the same tactics, and nobody's going to leave. And then when nobody leaves, they're going to get absolutely decimated. I mean, Florida is already just geographically a terrible place to live, especially in these times. Beautiful place, but it's questionable. Now, I mean, maybe some people do it because they can't afford to go anywhere else. Maybe some people do it because they couldn't afford to hunker down and make it happen in the winter up north, which is, self-doubt. You could do anything you really wanted to do. But Florida, if you're living somewhere that's not in Florida and you are planning on moving to Florida, really consider why you're moving to Florida, because it's literally a peninsula. And I've explained this before. I've had other videos on other platforms where I've made about this. It's a peninsula surrounded by water on all 3 sides. All of it's a huge body of water. I think the closest thing you got are the Keys, Bahamas, and Cuba. So if you're a great swimmer, maybe that's the only way you'll get out of any kind of situation where you need to escape quickly. And that is also just like a risk you're taking, especially if you're in South Florida, like you're really kind of screwed. Or in the Florida Keys. Why? And all they have to do is cut off those corridors, those main arteries of traffic that go up into Georgia or Alabama. So once they take those away, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? How are you going to get around that situation? Because they could easily cordon off that entry or exit into Florida with National Guard, Army, you name it. This is a possibility, right? And who's to say that they wouldn't do that if a real disaster, if Milton was a Category 6, or they have a future Category 6 hit the state. I mean, you're only about 50 feet above sea level in Florida, in all areas of Florida. I think the highest point is like 250 feet at the highest point in Florida, and that's in the Panhandle. So to get to any kind of high ground, you have to be in the Panhandle, and even then you're not safe because you are still relatively close to that coastline. So yeah, I mean, Florida is just geographically a terrible state to live in. It's been hyped up on purpose. It's been a desirable location on purpose, and it's just It's just waiting. It's ripe for the picking. It's ripe for the picking. And they had set it up to be this way. The government had led people there, promised people, peace and prosperity. Their beliefs are honored there, and they are going to live in sunshine and beauty and paradise for the rest of their days. And maybe if we were living hundreds of years ago, where we didn't have this controlled nation that we live in, maybe Florida would be a complete paradise. But now we can't even trust that we can live in relative peace, because we're getting hit with literal manipulated weather everywhere we turn and being told it's climate change. Just like up here in the mountains of Pennsylvania, we're being told that we're just now going to have to deal with the fact that tornado warnings are a regular occurrence. That is so uncommon. And I would literally bet you I'd get hundreds and thousands of idiots that claim they're from here or say they lived here for this long, and we've always used to get tornado warnings. We always had to worry about tornadoes. Da, 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 da. Yeah, well, they're liars. Don't believe them. I would believe somebody who's lived here, grew up here, born and raised, lived 18 years of their life, came back and lived here for another 6 years of their life. Like, in total, that's kind of my 31 years. That's 24 years of living here in Pennsylvania, southwestern Pennsylvania. You think I would know the weather? Yeah, I would, because I was so accustomed to the way things were. I'm used to cold winters. I'm used to how things go. And last winter was extremely mild. And all of a sudden in the springtime, we had tornadoes all over the place. So these weather events, they're not normal, but they're not because of man-made climate change. It's because of all of the activity going on above us, with all these particulates being spread around, all these certain types of metals and ionic reacting isotopes that are in the air, if I'm saying that right. They are reacting with something and causing these weather events to be extreme. So, Hurricane Milton, just another weapon that's being used against the American people. Prayers for those in Florida. Hopefully you get it out, and hopefully this isn't going to cause any harm to your homes. I hope this is just a flash in the pan and they are using it to scare us, not to actually hurt us. As the people that got hit in Hurricane Helene need your prayers and support. Keep your prayers up for those people in Florida. Every human being should be loved and respected, even if they have made mistakes, as long as they seek their forgiveness and they humble themselves and do seek a relationship with Jesus Christ. They do deserve redemption. With that, I'm going to leave it there. Stay vigilant and go in peace. This is Jay out.